You tie the last suture and step back. The border collie on your table blinks up at you, tail thumping weakly against the steel. Good boy. You scratch behind his ears, peel off your gloves, and drop him in the bin. 12 hours. You've been on your feet for 12 hours, and your lower back is reminding you of every single one of them. You hand Mrs. Patterson the leash. She presses a check into your palm and thanks you 3 times before the door swings shut behind her. You flip the sign. Closed. Finally. You're reaching for the light switch when something slams against the glass. You turn around slowly. A man stands in the rain outside your door, soaked through, eyes wide, breathing hard. He isn't holding a leash, he's holding a person. A woman slumped against his shoulder, one arm hanging loose at her side, the other pressed flat against her stomach. The fabric there is dark and wet, not from the rain. You shake your head. You point down the street. The hospital is 4 blocks away. Real doctors, real equipment, real medicine. You fix animals. He reaches into his jacket. The gun taps against the glass once, quietly, almost politely. You unlock the door. They come inside and your quiet clinic stops being quiet. Mud on the tile, water pooling at the entrance, and blood, a thin, dark trail from the door to your exam table, where the woman now lies staring at the ceiling with the blank concentration of someone working very hard at staying conscious. Bullet wound, through and through, just below the ribs. You tell him you don't do this. You tell him you give vaccinations and treat ear infections, and occasionally set broken bones for dogs who don't know better than to jump from moving cars. You have never done this. He doesn't respond. He just watches you with those still, flat eyes. You turn to your cabinet. You reach for the tranquilizer you use on large breeds. You do the math in your head. Weight, body mass, metabolic rate. You adjust the dosage. You inject it slowly and pray you haven't just killed her. She goes under in 40 seconds. You have maybe 20 minutes before she starts coming back up. You work fast. You clean the wound. You pack it. You stitch it closed with the blue nylon thread you use on German shepherds, pulling each knot tight, trying not to think about the scar it will leave. When you tie the final one, you realize your hands have stopped shaking. The man sets an envelope on the table. "Keep your mouth shut," he says. "Buy yourself something nice." They leave through the back. You stand alone in the middle of your clinic, blood on your apron, money on your table, and a decision you haven't made yet sitting heavily in your chest. You pick up the envelope. You count it. $5,000. You stand there for a long time. Then you walk to your filing cabinet, slide the envelope behind the tax returns in the very back, and go home.
3 nights later, your phone rings at 2 in the morning. Unknown number. You answer it anyway because something in you already knows. The voice is calm, unhurried. "I heard you do good work. A friend of mine needs help. Same situation as before. Double the pay." You should hang up. You know exactly what you should do. But you sat at your kitchen table this morning looking at your daughter's tuition statement, the past due notice printed in red across the top, and you thought about the filing cabinet, and you thought about what $10,000 could mean, what it could fix, what it could buy back. You give them the address. The second patient is a man with a deep laceration across his forearm, and a story you don't ask for. You clean it, you stitch it. 41 stitches in a careful, even line. When his partner hands you the envelope afterward, you don't even wait until they leave to count it. $10,000. You start keeping the back door unlocked on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Word moves through certain channels in ways you will never fully understand. You don't advertise, you don't ask questions, but they find you. A man with a fractured wrist on a Tuesday. You splint it with materials designed for large dogs and tell him to keep it elevated. A teenager with a deep burn on his forearm shows up on a Thursday. He says he grabbed a hot pipe. You don't ask which kind. You dress the wound, give him antibiotics, and send him out the back. They pay cash, they leave clean, they don't use your name, and you don't use theirs. And here's the thing that lets you sleep at night, most of them. Most of them aren't who you'd expect. Yes, sometimes the person on your table has eyes that are too still and hands that are too steady. Sometimes the wounds tell stories you recognize as violence without needing the details. But more often, it's someone who fell through the cracks of a system that was never designed to catch them. A warehouse worker who can't afford an ER visit. A woman who burned herself and can't take 2 days off without losing her job. You tell yourself you're helping people who have nowhere else to go. And you are. That part is true. You upgrade your equipment, new lights, sharper instruments, a proper surgical lamp. You call your ex-wife and tell her the clinic is finally turning a corner. She sounds genuinely happy for you. You put down a deposit on your daughter's first semester. 3 months pass. You have made more money than the previous 2 years combined. The filing cabinet is full. You start at a second hiding spot behind the water heater. You begin to feel something unfamiliar. Not pride exactly, but competence, purpose, like you have finally found the thing you were meant to do. That feeling is your first mistake.
It's a Thursday. You finish with a patient around 2 in the morning, dislocated shoulder, straightforward, and walk them to the back door. You watch them disappear into the alley. You lock up. You grab your keys and step out into the parking lot. You notice the van too late. Black, parked in the far corner with its engine off and its lights dark. The side door slides open, and 2 men step out, moving with the quiet efficiency of people who have done this many times before. A bag goes over your head. You don't fight. Something tells you fighting would be the wrong choice. They drive for maybe 15 minutes. When they pull the bag off, you're sitting in a chair in a room with glass walls, and beyond the glass is a medical suite that makes your clinic look like a storage closet. Stainless steel surfaces, monitoring equipment you've only seen in catalogs, an operating table in the center with a figure lying on it. A man in a dark suit stands in front of you. "You're the one they call the vet," he says. He doesn't phrase it as a question. He turns and points at the figure on the table. "That man needs your help." You recognize him immediately. Everyone in this city would. He owns the Port Authority, 3 private security firms, and half the commercial real estate in the downtown corridor. He also, according to things people say in low voices when they think no one is listening, owns every significant criminal operation between here and the river. The crime lord. And he does not look well. You tell them you can't do this. You explain calmly, carefully, that this is beyond your training, that this man needs a hospital, a real surgeon, someone with a medical degree and a residency and equipment you don't know how to operate. Hospitals ask questions, the suit says. They file reports, they notify authorities. We don't like questions. A guard steps forward from the corner of the room. You hadn't noticed him before. You pick up the instruments. You scrub your hands at the sink in the corner. A woman in scrubs appears beside you without introduction. She hands you gloves. You pull them on. You push through the glass door into the operating suite. You check his vitals. You've seen this before in animals struck by vehicles. Internal bleeding, slow and steady, pooling where it shouldn't. Without intervention, it will eventually stop his heart. You look through the glass at the suit and tell him you need to operate now. He nods. The woman assists you. She's extraordinary, anticipating every move, placing instruments in your hand before you finish reaching for them. You don't ask how she came to be here. You get the sense the answer would only complicate things. Your hand hovers over his abdomen. You think about everything you've heard about this man. The families displaced, the people who borrowed money and couldn't pay it back, the ones who tried to leave and couldn't. You could hesitate just long enough, call it a complication. No one could prove otherwise. But your daughter's face appears in your mind. Her laugh, the way she wraps both arms around your neck when you pick her up, squeezing like she's afraid you might disappear. You begin. 2 hours pass without feeling like time at all. Your back stops hurting somewhere around the first hour because you stop noticing your body entirely. There is only the work, the bleeding you need to stop,
the tissue you need to repair, the layers you need to close. The woman beside you matches your rhythm perfectly. You tie the final knot. You step back. The crime lord is alive. You don't feel relief. You don't feel pride. You feel something more like emptiness, like a room after everyone has left. You pull off your gloves. You drop them in the bin. You tell the suit you're finished. You ask for a ride home. You want your own bed. You want to see your daughter tomorrow morning. You want to put this night somewhere you never have to look at it again. The suit doesn't move. He presses a button on the wall. The glass goes opaque, white. You can't see out. You turn. The door is sealed. You push against it. You pound it. Nothing. Behind you, slowly, the crime lord opens his eyes. He looks at you the way a very patient person looks at something they have waited a long time for. A gift like yours, he says. His voice is barely above a whisper, wasted on house pets. You tell him you have a family, a daughter, a life. He nods slowly, like a man who has heard this before and has already prepared his response. She'll be taken care of. Best schools, comfortable home. She'll want for nothing. You look at the corner of the room. There's a bed there, neatly made, a small desk with a lamp, a stack of medical textbooks arranged in a careful pile. You look at the locked door. You look at the man on the table, the man you just saved, the man who is now watching you with the calm, absolute certainty of someone who has never once in his life been told no and had it stick. You thought you were making a choice. You thought you were in control. You were wrong from the very beginning. You spent your whole life learning how to save animals. Now you understand what it feels like to be one.